let's dive right into this stuff. We'll start with the reaction. Now, this one, the reaction, what we're getting ready to check out is a one the video that we're getting ready to check out is a video that was requested to me by one of my somebody that commented on my other SCP video. This was requested by, well, not really requested, but recommended by Sir Block Epic Mix Wagons 5248. So shout out to you, Sir Block. Yeah, we're about to check this video out, and here, let me show you which SCP it's about. This is like their favorite SCP. This story will hurt your soul, not your feelings, not your emotions. It's not gonna make your feels feel feely. It's gonna hurt your soul. Well, I refuse to let anything hurt my soul. I'm just gonna let my feels feel feely instead. This is SCP-1762, where the dragons went. Bet. Let's get it. Links will be in the description below.
Okay. Are we all ready? Tissue box on standby?
What's up, bro?
And the eye drops? Okay. Okay. We can do this.
I'm ready.
No tears this time, right? If all of this seems like a little much to you, it's probably because you don't know what we're about to do here. The story I want to share with you in this video is one I've been wanting to share for a long time now. I just wanted to be ready for it. But I finally had to accept it. There is no way to be ready.
You'll never be ready.
This is more than a story. It's a confrontation with one of the hardest realities we dreamers have to face. If you're creative, if you've ever imagined anything, if you love fantasy, it will break your heart. And that's all there is to it. You've been warned. So, if you think your heart can take it, let me share with you the tale of where the dragons went.
In the name of Emperor Cusco from the movie The Emperor's New Groove, bring it on. Let's do this. Bring on the feels. Tale Foundry.
A big thanks to everyone who made this video possible. Everyone who continues to watch, like, subscribe to these videos, and especially all of you who have decided to support the show on Patreon, thank you so much. There is absolutely no way we could make something like this without all of your help.
Shout out to you.
We love you.
Aww.
Our story is a fantasy, but it doesn't start in a medieval village or an alien otherworld. It starts in a cold, bare, unloving observation chamber deep in the bowels of a high-security containment facility. A place owned and run by an organization known as the SCP Foundation. If you haven't heard of them, that's about par for the course. They like it that way. They're a covert operation dedicated to protecting the world from the unknowable and the anomalous. Their usual charges are apocalyptic monsters, mimetic viruses, reality-warping artifacts, and other such nuisances. But one of the most fabulous of them all is, or was, a cardboard box. You may not have thought much of it if you'd come across it on your own. Little bigger than a
I know just a little bit about this SCP, as the commenter who recommended it, did mention a little bit about it. But I don't know the full story, obviously. But I think the full story combined with the way this guy is telling it might make your feels feel feely. Let's get it.
Shoebox, spray painted silver, the words "Here be dragons" written in permanent marker on the lid, otherwise entirely empty and unremarkable in every way. It would have looked to you like a children's arts and crafts project, and nothing more. Imagine your surprise then when all by itself, the box came open and out billowed clouds of black smoke and flocks of tiny flying origami dragons.
Aww.
This is why the Foundation had to keep the box under lock and key. There was something inside it that they didn't understand. Although the box was all—
So it would just randomly by itself, poof, smoke and origami dragons. That's kind of badass, I ain't gonna lie. Like I wouldn't mind having that box in my room. Excuse me. Did the origami dragons and like how long do they last? Like, what do they do anything? What do they do?
Always empty, the paper dragons and the smoke seemed to materialize from the opening as if from somewhere else. And the dragons themselves were no children's craft project either.
The box was
They
empty.
were alive, animate, aware of their surroundings. They would flutter about and play happily with each other or anyone else in the room.
Nice.
Until it was time again to vanish back into the empty box.
Okay, so they went back.
This went on for some time, the scientists and containment specialists watching the dragons come and go, wondering why. Until one day, the dragons brought an answer. Or rather, a question. It came in the form of a letter found resting atop the box, which read, "You have found us. Thank you. It has been so long since we last saw each other, friends. The peace has been upheld. The giants and behemoths have kept their word and have not caused any trouble since you last came and gave the order. We missed your company. How has your family been? Do you still know how to work your room? You are welcome to visit any time."
Yeah, who taught these dragons how to write poetry? I know it's not poetry, but this is beautiful. Man, I want a pet dragon. I want a pet my origami flying and like aware, alive dragon. Especially if it's really nice.
The Foundation provides no explanation of the possible implications of this message, but I think it's pretty clear what we're dealing with here. A portal fantasy. Like the ones in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, some kids, through their imagination and creativity, either created or found their way into a fantasy otherworld. And now, for whatever reason, they've gone away, and the denizens of the box await their return. The Foundation continued to observe. Later the same year, another letter arrived from within the box. This time it said, "It's strange to see how much your world has changed. It is even stranger to see how we now appear in this place. In
Excuse me.
fantasy, we are much bigger. Or maybe you've grown taller? Fantasy is still the same. We hope you can visit us like..."
So they even know the difference between quote unquote reality and quote unquote fantasy? Like their world is called fantasy? Or something? I don't know.
You used to. Though our room is as grand as ever, it appears yours has shrunken? We do not understand. The rooms were supposed to be maintained, as was our agreement. Please, restore the belief.
Wait, what? How? Is there a way for them to communicate back? Just like how do we restore the belief? Rooms are supposed to be maintained. They're supposed to be grander, it looks apparently. Like, yeah.
This is where the tragedy begins.
Also, I really like this narrator animation bot thing, this character. I like the design of it. You know, just a black design against a white background. Actually, it's black and white. And then of course you got the gears in the back and everything. I like the setup of this. It's like story time, and then you gather around for a little robot to tell you a story. Give it a couple decades. Shit, give it a decade. You'll probably have the Tesla bots reading your kids' bedtime stories, which would be another way for parents to disassociate themselves from actually parenting. Spend time with your kids. Parent. Be a parent. Be interested in what they're interested in. Find out what they're getting into. You might not even like it. Who knows? But be a parent. Damn.
Brace yourselves. It seems the dragons were starting to understand that things had changed, though it was difficult for them to grasp how. The children's bedroom, which had been the conduit from one world to another, had now been replaced with this sad little containment chamber, and without the belief of the children who'd found them, they could only manifest in our world as shadows of their true selves.
Little
These
paper
little
dragons.
paper things.
Aww.
But their hope wasn't yet gone. They were sure that their creators would never abandon them and only requested that things be set right again. Later, the following year, after a long and fruitless wait,
Why didn't they just try to like get some what why didn't they try to communicate back? Like how can we restore the belief or how can we restore whatever? You know. And they said you used to be much smaller. Maybe that would have been a hint to just, get some kids that believe in dragons and tell them dragons are real and then show them the box. What happens?
the dragons came with yet another letter. This time, instead of the brilliant, fluttering flock 100 strong, a mere 20 emerged from the box.
Ooh.
They would not fly, instead walking lethargically about on their feet.
Aww.
The letter said the following: Friends, we apologize for our few numbers. We have had to remain in fantasy for quite some time. The others are growing impatient. We are trying to keep the peace, but please, for all of our happiness, repair the room quickly. We know you are trying. Your family is the most imaginative of us all. It seems that without their creator's belief, things weren't going so well in the world of the box. But, not knowing who its owner was, there was little the Foundation could do except watch and wait.
What?
Sometime after that, the Foundation won't say
Nah, you could have at least tried different shit. Like, they gave you clues. Come on now.
how long, another letter arrived. This time, it came with just 10 dragons.
Uh-oh.
And they weren't alone. The box expelled 3 balls of yellow, crumpled construction paper, which shook violently on the ground for several seconds before ceasing all motion. The dragons scooped them up and returned them to the box. The letter read simply, "The giants were foolish. Your room was not ready to accept them yet. We're sorry, friends. We hope that we can still see you, but time is growing short for our happiness." The dragons, apparently the ones closest to the children whose imagination made this portal between the worlds possible, were barely able to materialize as paper dolls in a world that doesn't believe in them. The giants never stood a chance. After that, carried by just 5 dragons this time, another letter. Tensions are...
So that's what those 3 crumbled up yellow paper balls were. They were the giants. They just couldn't materialize fully at all. They couldn't materialize at all. And they will with such little belief. Damn, bro. It kind of like, because like it was children that created that are the masters of the box. It was children when it was created. But now the box is just stuck with a bunch of adult scientists, and it's like they don't have. It's like they've lost touch with their inner child, and they have no sense of fantasy within themselves. And they can't, they can't help these dragons.
are rising. Fantasy is becoming darker. We, the serpents and the hybrids, are furiously trying to hold them back, but the giants and the elves wish to strike and make an entrance. They say that your family has grown stupid and ignorant.
Damn.
We hope this is untrue.
That's what you get for losing touch with your inner child.
It would sadden us all greatly to know that you have forgotten. As the reality of their abandonment set in, it seems as though the creatures of fantasy were becoming desperate. My guess is that it escalated into a conflict not between the races of their world, but between their beliefs. That they must either grasp hold of reality themselves if they want to be a part of it, or trust their fate to the hands of absent creators. Eventually, a single red dragon pulled itself out of the box. Wings torn, noticeably crumpled, it collapsed to the floor and did not move again. As the life went out of it, its body unfolded into a sheet of paper, bearing a message only 3 words long. War. Goodbye, friends. Over the next 6 weeks, the box became a miniature apocalypse. Columns of flame burst from within over and over, hot enough to melt steel, taller than a man. Distant roars sounded from deep inside. It spewed out shreds of torn paper, crumpled paper balls, and the lifeless bodies of the paper dragons. There were a great many of them at first, but fewer and fewer as the weeks went on. For a while, near the end, instead of paper scraps, the box began to release what looked like scraps of flesh and muscle tissue.
Yo!
And then, for 7 long months, nothing. The box lay dormant. When a message finally did arrive, for the first time since the box had come into the Foundation's possession, it came without a messenger. They found it lying inside the box, words blurred and stained with blood on the parchment. It read, "Are you still out there, friends? We miss you dearly. Fantasy is no longer safe. Our haven, your beautiful creation, is gone. The giants are dead. The centaurs are dead. The birds have fled. We are going to bury your room. We cannot risk hurting you.
Damn.
This is our goodbye. Maybe one day, your family can build another room. This may be a hollow hope, but we will cherish this thought." After the researchers read the message, the box began to deteriorate. The dragons seemed to be holding on to an ember of hope, but it didn't stop the smoke from rising out of the box one final time, or the box from sagging and at last collapsing. It didn't stop the cardboard from charring through, crumbling away in small, black-edged holes. It didn't stop the words, "Here be dragons," from burning away forever. The dragons couldn't hold on to hope forever. After one more period of waiting, holding on to that last ember, the dragons let go. The Foundation received one final message from the box, a papyrus scroll. Most of it was covered in a painting of a mountainous landscape filled with large trees and waterfalls. In the distance, there was what appeared to be a single dragon flying toward the horizon. In the bottom right corner, written in black ink, were their parting words. "Master says that we won't see you again. We are sad. So are the remaining others. We once filled each other's heads with dreams and goals. It is so sad that we cannot share them any longer. Master says we have to go. He says that he will make us a new fantasy. He says you cannot be a part of it.
Damn.
We are sad. We love you.
Damn.
We will not forget you. We are scared. Will you forget us?" As soon as the scroll was removed from the box, salt water began to leak from the charred remains. It seemed to wash away the burns, to cleanse all the scars of war. Within 3 minutes, the entire thing had been restored to its original state. No bigger than a shoebox, spray-painted silver, text written in Sharpie on the lid. Only now the words, "Here be dragons," had been replaced with the words, "Here were dragons."
Damn.
Now you probably understand the tissue box. I'd let you borrow it if I could, but it's a really painful story in a really unexpected way.
I'm good though.
We're sad about the dragons, yes. We're sad about the world inside the box. But I think the reason this story hurts so much goes deeper than that. I think it touches something innate to all of us, forces us to confront one of the harshest of all realities, that every fantasy, no matter how precious, how intimate, will die in the end. And it's true for more than just the fantasies of our novels and fairy tales. The fantasy of youth, the fantasy of a permanent self, the fantasy of life, all of them have to pass. I'm reminded of a passage from a poem by William Wordsworth.
I don't know about the quote unquote fantasy of a permanent self. Hold up there. Hold up.
Ode, Intimations of Immortality. The opening lines have haunted me since I first read them. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been of yore. Turn wheresoe'er I may, by night or day, the things which I have seen, I now can see no more. The promise of the phrase, "Here be dragons," is one of mystery. It tells us that there is a world unknown. This empty part of the map could be home to the creatures of our imagination. Who can be sure? The cruelty of the phrase, "Here were dragons," is that it doesn't even negate that promise. It tells us that it was fulfilled and that it never will be again. The terrain is mapped, it is known, and definitively, where once there were fabulous beasts and things out of our dreams, we know now that the magic has passed. As a creative, my instinct is to fight this idea. I have always loved to believe that dreams outlive the dreamer, that thoughts exist independent of the thinker. I still do believe that in some ways, but fantasies are unique to the ones experiencing them. It's what makes them so precious. Give 1,000 people the same book to read, and every one of them will see something different in their mind's eye. Sit 1,000 people down to watch a film, and they'll all have different interpretations and reactions. Give 1,000 writers the same prompt, and you'll receive 1,000 different stories. Without all of those individual readers, moviegoers, writers, the versions of the fantasy unique to them vanish. And it will happen to each in their time. Either circumstance or mortality will eventually change the person, and so the fantasy must change as well. Our dragons become so many origami dolls. We're all a bit like Peter Pan, trapped forever between the world of our fantasies and the harsh outside reality. Or in the case of Peter, the world of childhood and the impending world of adulthood. His magic, his motivations, his entire story all revolve around the knowledge of what's coming, maybe even what has already begun for him. He tries to animate nostalgia into this immortal living fantasy, but the tragedy of nostalgia is that the feeling itself is an admission of things lost. By dreaming backward, we accept that the fantasy has already died. Our relationship with it will never be the same again. And so it goes with every fantasy we create, every fantasy we experience. Even if we could stay forever, to do that would be to die ourselves. So, we always have to return from it, and in some form or another, in order for us to live, the fantasy must die. The things which I have seen, I now can see no more. It's a sad truth, but I didn't just...
Why is it feel so heavy on, like, I don't know, like the loss of your inner child, you know? That's what like, to live, you have to get rid of the fantasy. And nah. I feel like you can do both. Actually, you probably better off doing both.
bring you here to make you sad. I brought you here because I think there's something to learn. As storytellers, the knowledge that our fantasies will one day die makes them precious in a way that something eternal could never be. Just the way the disappearance of the world inside the box awakens us to how precious these tiny paper dragons truly are, knowing the limitations of our own dreams makes the brief window during which we get to live them so much more poignant. It reminds us to breathe every fantasy deeply while we can, and when the time for dreaming is done, to give them a fond and loving farewell. At the very least, we don't need to leave them wondering whether we'll come back. In a way, I think this is what we're doing when we share our fantasies with others. The passing of the tale is like a goodbye. You've experienced it. You know it well enough to tell it. To you, it's become...
What if the fantasy is something that you can make into a legacy? What if the fantasy is something that you can like create in your reality and actually obtain that fantasy? And the fantasy, I guess the fantasy would still technically die because it became a reality. But I don't know. I feel like he found, in my opinion, it sounds pessimistic the way he's saying it. I'm just not. Yeah. I didn't like it that much. But I get what he's saying. Anyway.
Old, one step nearer the grave. But to the ones you share it with, it's new. Not the same fantasy, but one fresh to their dreaming minds. The fantasy lives on, reincarnate. As if to acknowledge this, The story of Where the Dragons Went ends with one final addendum. After almost 8 years of inactivity, the box stirred. Purple smoke began to rise from it, and as it opened, it fell to the floor, spilling out a large chunk of amethyst and a leather-bound book. The box disintegrated soon after, taking every trace of the world that had been with it. Every trace except for the book. Inside, you find the fantasy again, but in a different way. It turns out someone had traveled the world of fantasy while it was alive and cataloged its many species and environments. The book is called Beasts of the Old Letters, and through it, the fantasy comes alive in our own minds. It becomes our portal, even without the magic of the box. The amethyst was inscribed with the words, "One last time." Sometimes, that's all a fantasy needs.
It's got a little dragon on it. That's adorable.
Be good to yours. Share them. I say that like it's an easy thing to do. Really, as artists, I think we tend to undersell how difficult it is to take care of our ideas. Translating the nebulous stuff of your dreams into something concrete is a task in and of itself, never mind making it digestible for others. No matter how good your idea, how passionate you are about bringing it to life, something as simple as organization can doom it to a fate much like these poor little dragons. But it doesn't have to be that way. There are tools that can save you and your ideas the heartbreak. And one of our absolute favorites is World Anvil. If you're not familiar, World Anvil is
I don't know. I don't know. To me, it just signified, to me, it was just kind of like, since it was created by children and it being stuck around adults who didn't have the same imagination, kind of signified like I said, or like I said before, the loss of or the death of the the death of the connection to some people, to people inner child. Because if they were still connected to their inner child, if it wouldn't have mattered if they weren't the original masters of the box. They would still be able to breathe life into that box by using their imagination and figuring out the puzzle behind what the dragons were saying in the beginning. But yeah, it is a sad story though. Did they try entering the box? But anyway, that one was titled "This Story Will Hurt Your Soul," SCP-1762, Where the Dragons Went. It was by the YouTube channel Tail Foundry. Links will be in the description below. Check them out. I do like how they told it, but it was just so, like, coupled with the music and everything, it was so depressing. Like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, peace.